She left on a quiet afternoon that smelled of rain and heartbreak. No shouting, no long explanations, just a single suitcase and eyes that couldn't meet mine. We'd built years together, laughter stitched into the walls of our small apartment, but that day, everything came undone with a whisper. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice trembling between guilt and relief. I stood there, frozen, watching her disappear down the corridor, the sound of her fading footsteps echoing like a cruel countdown to emptiness. For months, I lived like a ghost inside my own life. Her clothes were gone, but her scent still lingered on the pillow. I'd wake up at midnight, thinking she might walk back through the door, apologize, cry, hold me. But silence became my companion. Every morning, I brewed 2 cups of coffee, out of habit. Every night, I deleted her number, only to save it again before sunrise. I couldn't accept that she had chosen a world without me in it. People said I should move on, but grief doesn't listen to advice. It grows quietly inside you, turning ordinary moments into painful reminders. I saw her face in every crowd, heard her laughter in strangers' voices. The world felt like a cruel reflection of what I'd lost. It wasn't just about her leaving, it was about how easily she could, as if our years together had been a dream only I remembered. Time, however, has its own strange mercy. Somewhere between sleepless nights and long walks under streetlights, I began to breathe again. Pain turned from fire to ashes, still warm but no longer burning. I started focusing on work, meeting people, and allowing small joys to return. Life didn't feel whole, but it began to move. And then, out of nowhere, came Sarah. Sarah wasn't a replacement, she was a beginning I never planned for. She listened when I spoke, laughed from the heart, and saw beauty even in the parts of me I'd stopped believing in. With her, life felt real again. Slowly, she filled the empty spaces with something gentle, something I thought I'd lost forever, peace. When I looked at her, I didn't see what I'd been through, I saw where I could finally go. A year passed, and my heart healed in quiet ways. I learned to forgive the past, not because it deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved to move on. And so, I asked Sarah to marry me. It wasn't a grand proposal, just the 2 of us, under the same tree where I once promised someone else forever. But this time, the promise felt true. She said yes, with tears in her eyes, and in that moment, the world seemed to applaud our courage to love again. The wedding day arrived with soft sunlight and the scent of jasmine in the air. Guests laughed, music played, and my suit felt heavier than usual, not from nerves, but from the weight of every moment that had led here. I stood at the altar, watching the door, waiting for Sarah to walk in. Every heartbeat echoed with gratitude. I'd survived heartbreak, rebuilt my world, and was finally ready to begin again. And then, 5 minutes before the ceremony, she walked in, the one who had left me behind. Dressed simply, eyes swollen from tears, she looked like a memory dragged back to life. For a second, I thought I was imagining her. But she was real. She stood there at the edge of the aisle, trembling, holding her hands together as if praying for time to stop. My breath caught in my throat. "I had to see you," she whispered when she reached me, her voice barely audible over the music. I was wrong. I thought I wanted freedom, but all I found was loneliness. I didn't realize what we had until it was gone. "Please, don't do this. Don't marry her." Her words hit like lightning, sudden, blinding, and impossible to ignore. Every emotion I'd buried came rushing back: love, anger, confusion, grief. The guests stared, whispering. The world tilted. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. My mind replayed every night I waited for her, every unanswered message, every tear shed in silence. And now she was here, wanting to pick up where she left off, as if the pain she caused could be erased by a few desperate words. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel hatred or longing. I felt clarity. She had been my past, not my future. I took a step closer, my voice calm but steady. "You had your chance," I said quietly. "You walked away when I needed you the most. I spent years breaking myself just to survive that goodbye. You don't get to return now and rewrite the story when someone else helped me find an ending. Her tears fell faster, and I could see the realization in her eyes, that time had truly moved on, and I no longer belonged to her memory. Sarah stood behind me, watching, silent but strong. I turned toward her, and in her gaze, I found everything I needed: peace, loyalty, and love that had weathered the storms of my past. Without another word, I took her hand. The hall was silent except for the soft echo of our footsteps as we walked back to the altar together. Behind me, I heard the faint sound of someone breaking, the same sound I once made when she left. The ceremony continued, though the air was heavy with unspoken stories. I said my vows, not just to Sarah but to the life I had fought to rebuild. When I said, "I will never walk away," my voice didn't tremble. It carried the weight of promises learned through pain. As we exchanged rings, I felt something inside me finally settle, not closure, but peace. Later that night, long after the laughter and music faded, I stood outside under the stars. I thought about how life brings people back only to test what you've learned. She had returned to remind me that love is not about holding on to what hurt you, it's about having the courage to let it go. Some returns are not second chances, they are confirmations that you've healed. I never saw her again after that day. Maybe she found her own way to forgive herself, or maybe she kept chasing what she once threw away. But I didn't need to know. The chapter had closed, and for the first time, it didn't ache. The story that began with abandonment ended with acceptance, and that was enough. When people ask if I still think about her, I smile faintly. Of course I do. You don't forget the person who taught you how to survive heartbreak. But I also remember that sometimes, the one who leaves your life is the reason you learn to value the one who stays. And that's what truly matters, not who left, but who never did. Did this story touch your heart? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more hearts can feel these stories too.